The Lemon Squeeze Show is here to inspire, empower, and illuminate women around the globe. As entrepreneurs, role models, warriors, the glue that holds families together, trendsetters, career women, and mothers of the earth, we face obstacles daily. We conquer the inevitable. We persevere beyond measure. And we flourish unapologetically. It's a fact that life will bring you lemons. It's a choice for you to make lemonade. Welcome to the Lemon Squeeze Show. That's what JoJo knows.
Hello, we are back.
Yes.
It's a new show. I'm your host, JoJo Knows.
And I am your co-host, Constance B.
And you already know you're listening to the Lemon Squeeze Show.
Yes.
Here at WPSN99.com. And we are
the Problem Solving Network.
You know what? We need to shout out our sponsors. So, shout out to Journey Pure.
Yes.
We thank you so much for your support, as well as Retreat Premier Addiction Treatment Centers.
Yes, thank you guys so much, because without our sponsors,
we wouldn't be here.
We would not be here. So, you see how I said that we would not be here.
Right. Exclamation point. So, thank you.
And we are here at the National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day.
Yes, a wonderful community health event here on 1201 20th Street. I've memorized the address. That's how intrigued I am.
Yes.
It's a phenomenal place, phenomenal cause, mission, purpose, all of the above.
Yeah, at the Holden Heights Community Center.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited, and it's been a wonderful day, and it's been so informative. We've had so many different speakers, and we are guests.
Yes.
And we have another wonderful guest right now,
Who is
which
wearing this fuchsia
I love
button
it.
Down with the tie.
And I love the tie. The tie is just
Speaks wonders, right?
all people.
Yes, diversity. This is Dr. Kevin.
Dr. Kevin. So, and which we need you, because we got a lot of questions to
Yes,
ask
we've been
you.
asking questions, and
No one's
here
been
you
giving us
are.
any answers. So now we have the doctor in the building.
Dr.
Yes.
Kevin Sharon.
Dr. Karen Sharon.
No, Kevin.
No, he just
Sharon.
wants to go by Kevin, but we're going to say Dr. Kevin Sharon.
I
Oh,
know.
okay.
Yeah, we became family, and I
Yeah.
left off his last name. But Dr. Kevin Sharon.
There you go.
Yes.
And I'm glad to be here, and ask away, ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so we already know, obviously, what brought you out today, but is this in different events that you come to often to speak at, and how often do you speak at different events or come to support events like this?
And before you speak, Dr. Kevin, you're so fabulous. Can you move that mic up so that everyone can hear you? I want them to get as much fabulousness as I'm getting right now. So let them hear you. Yes.
Ladies, it's a real pleasure to be here. I do these kind of events all the time. I have done this with Dr. Robertson for a number of years, you know, the National Black HIV Awareness Event.
That's awesome.
And so I work with the Public Health Department here in Orange County and the state of Florida. And so I'm glad to be here and support this event. And, you know, part of my team is here doing HIV testing as well through the Area 7 office.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that's so amazing. Not only are you getting educated here, but you can come in and get tested today, and they're even giving you money to get tested. At first it was going to be like a $10 gift card, but they said, hey, everyone likes cash, so they're giving out $10 bills
Yeah.
for you to find out if you're okay, and if you're not okay, what is the steps that you take next. So I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Can Trinity take a test twice, one for me as well?
Doctor.
Yeah, you can take it. Anyone can take a test today. We want people to step up. It is all about getting tested and treated, right? So
Right.
if people don't know their status, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. So this is an event to raise the awareness about status. And if you know your status with respect to HIV, then you can take care of yourself. That's what it's all about.
And you know, I have so many.
Wait a minute. Do you get the results today?
Oh, no, it wouldn't be that quickly.
Oh,
but-
okay. It freaked me out because I waited 2 weeks or 2 months or something like that when I first did it, like in
Well, I hope-
1991.
Well, I hope that we don't have to wait that long in these days. I think, you know, these are actually rapid tests,
Uh-huh.
so you can get results really quickly. There are oral tests as well as, you know, more sophisticated testing that can be done for HIV.
Wow.
But you know, in fact, we have fourth generation technology tests that you can get an answer when you're very early in the infection that didn't exist years ago.
Okay.
So there's a lot of new things that have come along.
So when do people get the results that they're doing today? How long from today?
Well, you know, that depends on Miracle of Love and what technique they're using. I don't really know.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones
Okay.
in the parking lot.
Okay.
Oh,
But if
okay.
they have, you know, OraSure or OraQuick, it's going to be really quickly.
Okay.
Isn't there a test out there that can tell you right then whether or not you're good or you need like the additional testing?
Yeah.
I heard of that.
Right. So, you know, the oral tests are quick. So they should be able to give you an answer quickly. But, you know, I can't speak to exactly what they're doing today.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Well, and I have a question, because I was out there, you know, speaking about my father and my situation that I had to go through when I was a child. And so what I learned with him is that he started out with HIV, but then it progressed into actual AIDS. And a lot of people don't know that it's HIV and or AIDS. So does that HIV turn into AIDS, or can you just right off have AIDS? Like, what's the difference?
Well, to be honest, today we're distinguishing less and less the whole difference of the spectrum of it. I mean, if you're an HIV positive, we want to treat you early. So in the old days, they waited until you had full-blown AIDS in order to treat you. But today, as far as the clinical progression and offering the medications, we don't wait. The idea is to test and treat. So see, the nomenclature has changed. The name of it has changed. It's test and treat. If we find somebody who's HIV positive, we know from the START trials, which were national and international actually, the early HIV treatment is better than waiting for the progression of it. So, you know, you gave a powerful testimony today about taking care of your dad as a little girl, and that was very moving.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, it's a reality, but it doesn't define our relationship. I've always been very close to him, and I still am, to the extent of, you know, being there for him in his time of need. So, and it's something that I felt very compelled to make sure that I spoke out from the child perspective of it, you know, growing up with the parent and how it affects. So it's so good for us to take care of ourselves so that our children don't have to go through that nor experience having to take care of us, you know, in that manner.
Yeah, and you know, as we're speaking to children now as well as parents, we're also cognizant that the guidelines have changed on the testing. So we go down to 15 now. We recommend
Wow.
routine screening at the age of 15. You know, all the different professional groups have come together and agree on that with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And we start testing adolescents at age 15. So
And that was what I was actually speaking with the commissioner about, because I wanted, she just had come from doing a speaking or doing different things with the youth. And so I wanted, and I'll ask you the same thing. So, which you pretty much answered. I wanted to know in schools though, should this not, and I said it to her as it would be mandatory that the teenagers in high school are tested for HIV. So I'm not going to say the word mandatory because I understand that they're still minors. However, you know, I really do think that, and you've answered it. So you guys, you do that. Do you go in schools and do it, or is it?
well, you know, I actually believe that it could be opt-out. In other words, if parents didn't want to have their children tested, it could be opt-out. But you can run any kind of school program, right? You can run an educational part of it, or you can run a testing program. You can do immunizations in schools. We don't do a lot of that in our particular county here. So I would hesitate to say, yes, we're going to go in there and test in the schools, because that would create some sort of a fear in this community. But to be honest, those kind of services can be offered in schools, and they are in many urban areas.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that is awesome. So do you yourself when you go out and you talk about these different experiences, could you tell us some different experiences that you've had with helping people get comfortable being tested and the outcome of these different situations?
And after you answer that question, doctor, she is asking you all the questions. So
I'm
have
so.
one.
You got
this
some
is-
questions too.
I do.
This is the.
the big one is
I'm
the
like-
earwax. Like we have the doctor here.
Oh, that is a good one, Doc.
We want to know, can you know how when you're intimate with someone, some people are into licking the ear or you
Yep.
licking the ear.
Sure.
And I've heard, Constance B has heard, that you can contract HIV from earwax. Is that true?
We don't know. And the answer is that they have not studied it. So the specific question about earwax, the technical word is cerumen, and the answer is that studies have not been done, so we don't know the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
Now, what does that say? You got to be careful, right?
Right.
If you have a cut in your ear, let me give you an example. If you have a cut in your ear and you have a cut on your tongue and you lick the ear, you can get HIV. You see what I'm saying? In other words, there's a blood exposure there, body fluids. So it depends on how liquefied that wax is, but no one has ever done the study to look at earwax per se.
Oh, wow. Which brings me to another question. We were talking about oral. And so do you have to have a cut in your mouth or just
No.
from swallowing it, then you could contract?
Or it's just getting
the
in the
virus.
mouth.
Well,
Yeah.
right. I mean, again, you can have microscopic amount of blood, and you can any body fluids. I mean, we know that sweat is not going to transmit HIV. Some things have been tested, and others, internal body fluids, we know they can transmit HIV. So it all depends.
Wow. That was the main question. That one of the questions that we were all trying to find out here. It was about the
earwax.
the earwax.
Well, what I like is he didn't laugh about it.
But if
Well,
if
it's
we
no-
were
As
talking
a
about,
physician, he didn't laugh. He straight up just
Yeah.
said, "We don't know."
we don't know. It's the truth. But can you get oral sex? Can that transmit it? Again, if you have a cut on your tongue or a sore, and you have a sore on the outside, of course. I mean, that's how these things happen. So if you have one of these, herpes or syphilis or one of those kind of lesions, then the HIV transmission is much easier from one to another, right? No matter whether it's regular sex or oral sex, those sorts of things, right?
And then isn't it true that there are different forms or different strands of HIV? And so someone could have a HIV virus and then someone could have a different strand, and then they combine, and does it combine into a different one, or now you have both, like two HIVs?
Well, right. You're kind of getting into the weeds there of all the different strains of HIV, HIV-1 and HIV-2, and what can happen. The major concern is that these viruses, just like any other bacteria or virus, they can become resistant to the medications we use. So if people are combining two different types of HIV, and they have different strains that are, one is more resistant than another, and so on and so forth, it can cause the treatment failures to occur, where the medicines will no longer work. So that would be a caution. So what, safe sex is the best sex, right? So I mean, if you're going to give the public health advice, you're talking about wearing condoms and wearing barriers and knowing your test status. If you know your test status and your partner is HIV negative, and both of you are, then you don't have to concern yourself as long as you stay within that relationship.
That's
no
good
cheating.
to know. Right. Wrap it up, dog.
Well,
That's the,
I think another question you guys had was about semen, right?
Yes.
Right.
Semen does transmit it, period, okay? So that's one of the body fluids that can transmit it. But
point.
There-
I was just about to say that.
Is there blood in the semen? That's what we were talking about.
didn't say that it had to be. The semen itself can have the fluid, and it can transmit the virus. The virus can be in the fluid. That's what the
wow.
studies have shown.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
We thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank
Yes,
you, ladies.
thank
Yes, thank you so
you.
much for
Thank
coming.
you, thank you.
They
And
were
once again,
stunned. You guys
Dr.
are sitting
Kevin,
there stunned.
I know we're like in shock, like, whoa.
What is it that shocked you guys?
All of it.
Yeah.
Well, it really wasn't so much of shocking. It's just that one,
Just being
because we
educated,
actually,
yeah.
are getting answers opposed to, everyone else. We kind of, it was just conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but to actually get
Have
the
an
facts,
expert and the facts
it's just
of
like
reality.
wow. And we're
So the answer is we don't know about earwax, but if you want to whisper sweet nothings in somebody's ear, you better be careful.
I love him.
Or strike it up.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kevin.
All right.
Thank
man.
you.
Today is all possibilities. We can do anything we want to do. This is our show.
Was pretty cool, right?
He was really cool. You guys enjoyed him. I know we enjoyed him and having him here and
Given the facts.
yeah, and not just kind of like theories or
He said, you know,
maybes.
if you want to take the risk of licking the ear, then go right ahead. But we don't know if it contracts HIV.
Right.
That's a game changer right there.
That is a real game changer.
Yes. Oh, dope. Looking beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
The I don't knows
ma'am.
are scary though. I got to be honest with them.
Right.
They say I don't
That's
know.
more fearful. Now
What's-
you think twice when you look at ear.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, well,
And now we have another doctor here that's going to be able to help us out and give us some different answers as well. So
Okay.
So introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Rochelle Joe. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Central Florida in the counselor education program. So my focus is on mental health and the mental health impact of HIV or those who are caretakers for people living with HIV. We're also focused on prevention as well because we know that that's important, especially for our youth.
Wow. Well, we are so happy that you're here with us at the Lemon Squeeze Show.
Yeah.
We
Thank
have
you.
so many questions.
Well, thank you for having me. And I do want to say thank you for sharing your story earlier today. It really
Yes.
resonated with me. I connected with a lot of what you said. Both of my parents were HIV positive when I was young. And I, too, was a caretaker in a different kind of a way. And unfortunately lost both of them when I was young. But I really connected with your story. And I think that's one piece that we miss, that there are children and
Yes.
families that are affected by HIV indirectly. So thank you for being so transparent and sharing that.
thank you. I appreciate it. You're welcome. I, like I said, it's something that I feel now in my life that it's, necessary for me to open up about it from the child's point
Yes.
of it. And because we are affected, it's not just that we're living in the house, like we're there. So we're living with them and watching them go down and
Yeah.
body changing and all kinds of things. And that has it plays on you a lot. So it's something that I feel now I need to step up and speak up about it.
It's so important, too, because just, not experiencing, some of those trials and tribulations that you all have. On a regular day, I've never actually thought about it from the child's perspective. So it's so important for individuals like myself who didn't have a parent to be, familiarized and made aware of, hey, this affects our children too. Because let's be honest, when we get in the bedroom, we don't think about the kids, and how our actions can affect their lives forever. So thank you to both of you.
Yeah. And two, to add on that, so being that my father, he, from what we're understanding, he got it from using needles. And in your line of work, is that very common for individuals to contract that way, or is it mainly through unprotected sex is what you...
So it depends on what population you're talking about and also geographically where you're talking. So if we're talking specifically here in Florida and in Central Florida, we've seen an increase in HIV incidence in this area, and it's very much connected to intravenous drug use.
Okay.
So in this particular area, what we have found is that people are injecting drug. There's an increase across the country, and there are certain pockets where you'll see an increase in both the drug use and
Like the
HIV.
heroin,
Absolutely.
has boosted so
Yes.
huge.
Right. And
that
so
makes sense.
it's interesting now that there's a conversation about opiates and about heroin and, how do we address this issue? And what's missing from that conversation is HIV. Because we know that those two things are connected.
Right.
A couple of years ago, there was an outbreak in a small town in Indiana. So a small outbreak of HIV where the rate just increased dramatically in a short period of time. And it was because of the intravenous drug use, where there were multiple people in one household who were sharing needles and that sort of thing. And so we can't have those conversations separately. We do need to talk about drug use when we talk about HIV. And we do need to talk about that in the African American community because that is a concern.
Right.
I do want to say also, though, for the African American community, that it's not only drug use, because for African American men and women typically the way of contracting HIV is through unprotected sex. So that's the most common way, but we do want to acknowledge that intravenous drug use is an issue.
You know, in the field that you are in, you know, in the Black community already, mental health is a struggle for, you know, us people. And a lot of Blacks, African American, whatever we want to call them, you know, don't want to see a counselor. They don't want to receive therapy. Do you see that as an increase when you add the component of HIV, or is that a game changer? Well, now, you know, in that community, they're more open to getting, you know, counseling services.
I would say overall, unfortunately, we're not more open as a community. I think that there is some greater awareness now that we have to be concerned about our mental health for our children, for mothers, for men, for women. We're recognizing that as an issue. The challenge that we face, though, as African Americans is that we don't often have as many mental health professionals that look like us, and that matters in the counseling room. We know that African American clients who do seek help are less likely to continue if they don't have a counselor that connects with them, either related to their race or ethnicity or looks like them. And so that is a concern on like the professional side, that we need more mental health professionals that are African American and that understand the experiences in the African American community. And that's overall for mental health. And then especially if we're talking about HIV, because there's so much stigma that's associated with that. And in the Black community, it's really bad.
Yes.
It's really bad. We don't openly talk about either mental health or HIV the way that we should.
Right.
Wow. Yeah,
And you said that about the HIV goes up, but Hep C is being talked about because Hep C went way up with the drug use.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Hep C has a different narrative around it,
right.
And it's a less stigmatizing narrative than HIV.
So is that why it's talked about more?
And it's still not talked about enough.
Right.
But I would say that because there is less of a stigma associated with Hep C than with HIV, Hep C is people are more likely to talk about Hep C than HIV. And a lot of that is because in the 1980s and early 90s, there were so many people who were very visibly, publicly ill with HIV, advanced stages, people who died of AIDS-related illnesses, and that really shaped the narrative about HIV for a long time. And unfortunately, we haven't forgotten that. People still are holding on to the 1980s despite all the advancements that we've made in medicine.
Wow.
Speaking of advances in medicine, you know how it had came out and, oh gosh, now I'm going, Magic Johnson, you know, was contracted, and then all of a sudden it hit the news that he had been cured. Like now he does not have this virus. Is that true? Is there truly a cure where, you know, one day you have it and the next day you don't if you have the money and the resources?
That's a good question, and the answer is right now there is not a cure for HIV. There are multiple treatments and very effective treatments so that people can maybe HIV positive, living with HIV, and live a long, healthy life. And that's the case with Magic Johnson. And his case is real interesting because I believe it was like 1992 maybe or 91 that he publicly announced that he was HIV positive. And of course, he's very wealthy. And so he has access to different treatment, which meant that he could get the treatment that he needed like immediately. And but I think because of that, and because because of his wealth and status, not only did he get the treatment, but he likely was adherent to treatment, stayed on treatment, and that's important for people who are HIV positive, not just that they get in care, but that they stay in care. What's also interesting about him is that the medications that he takes are kind of an old class of medications, and they're very different what people take now, but they've said that they work for him, and so they don't want to switch him to something else because it has worked for him.
Right.
Also, like Magic Johnson was a professional athlete, so his physical health was probably better than the average person anyway. So I think there are a number of factors that play into him being able to live what's been it's been 25 years, I guess, since he announced that.
And he looks really good. I've seen
him.
He
looks great. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen him personally, but I've seen him doing an interview, and I'm like, he looks wonderful.
Right.
Like,
I think it's a stigma because a lot of individuals who aren't educated, they feel like when someone has this virus, they're supposed to look a certain way. And that's really at the end stages or the bad stages where it's physical, where you can kind of say, hey, these are some symptoms that are,
that might be external.
Exactly.
Right? And the key thing, again, is about getting people in care. So if we get people in care, they have access to health care, they stay in care, they take their medications and are adherent, they can get their HIV viral load to a point where it's undetectable, which means that they're not going to transmit HIV to other people, even if they don't engage in protected sex, and their body is able to really sustain any kind of illness.
Wow.
That's important information to know, and many people don't realize that the treatment is so good that a person's viral load can't be detected on a test, and that's really important, and the goal for anybody that's HIV positive.
Wow.
Well, before you leave us, could we ask you one more question? Sure. And you know how sometimes I'm thinking of the question and I forget. That's where I'm at. Oh, I know. So let's say you take this test and you both are HIV positive. Is it okay at that point for you both to engage in unprotected sex, or you should not?
So there's a lot of additional questions or information that you want to know, and anybody in that situation, of course, would want to talk with their healthcare provider to get details about sort of where they are in terms of their health. What's important for people who are HIV positive when they go to their healthcare provider is that they know their numbers, right, related to HIV. Mm-hmm. So they want to know what their viral load is. That means how much the HIV virus is actually in their system. And they also want to know their CD4 count, which are the cells that protect our body from any kind of infection. And they want their viral load to be low and their CD4 count to be high. Okay. And so it's important for people when they go in to not leave unless they know those numbers and their healthcare provider has explained what those numbers mean to them. So that way they know sort of where they stand. Now, if that person's viral load is to the point where it's undetectable, it's not likely that they will transmit HIV to anyone else. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't still use protection if they're engaging in sex, because there are other STIs out there as well. So it's not just HIV. There's gonorrhea, there's syphilis, there's herpes, all of those still exist. And if you're positive, you want to protect yourself from those as well, because having HIV means that your immune system is going to be more vulnerable to those other STIs. So it's still important to take precautions and to know all the details about your own medical history, those numbers. And a good healthcare provider will tell that at every visit and explain it. Okay. And if people don't have questions, they definitely need to ask.
Those are the questions, guys, if you all are struggling with those. In closing, what would you like to say to our listeners and viewers?
Knowing is beautiful, so we need to get tested, we need to know our status, and we need to have conversations. We can't hide and be afraid of the conversations. We need to have them in church, we need to have them in school, we need to have them in communities, we need to have them in the barbershop, in the salon, as they mentioned before, at poetry night, girls' night, whatever. We need to have the conversations, especially in our community, because life is on the line.
Yes. Wow. Don't be afraid to talk about it. And we're talking about it today at the Lemon Squeeze Show. And we thank you so much, Doctor, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely.
All righty.
Take a short break. And so I'm your host, JoJo Knows.
And I am your co-host, Constance B.
And you're tuned into the Lemon Squeeze Show.
The Problem Solving Network.
Here at WPSN99.com. We'll be right back.
You have a problem, we'll solve them.
I know that's right. And we're back, y'all. I'm your host, JoJo Knows.
And I am your co-host, Constance B.
And you're tuned into the Lemon Squeeze Show here at WPSN99.com.
The Problem Solving Network.
And we are here with the beautiful Diana Williams. And it's National HIV AIDS Black Awareness Day, but we have to start out with all this beautiful
that's
going on, these jewels and stones, and tell us more.
Each stone represents something, and I just want you to give us a few.
At least a couple. All of these
you are well protected.
Exactly.
Yes.
When you work in this arena, you pick up a lot of energies, a lot of it negative energy, not on the part so much of the individual you're working with, but it's because of what they're going through.
Yes.
And because I'm very personable about working with people, and I have a passion for those that are infected as well as affected in substance abuse. So I always like to be at my best. And I have a lot going on in my personal life, so it also helps me to bring positive energy to the people that I'm working with or around.
Love
I do
it. You
too.
know I love it. I
Yes.
am so
Yeah,
involved.
so I never knew for many years. Since I was a child, I've always had a fascination with rocks, not knowing. I just had a fascination with them, not knowing until much later in life what those rocks were, what it meant, that I had a spiritual connection. And these are all healing stones. Everything that I have on are healing stones. I don't just wear jewelry anymore. I have lots of beautiful pieces that I hardly ever wear because they're not crystals. And these are all, not only wear healing stones, but I like them raw because that means man has not gotten a hold of them and changed the facet of them. So they're rough and they're kind of at their best when they're rough, you know what I mean? So each one represents something. The ones I have on today, like this little basket, everybody loves this. It's just a basket of chakras. Each stone inside the basket represents one of the chakras, which are the energy field, and every human being has them. There's 7 that we focus on, but there's way more. And so from the crown of your head to the sole of your feet, needs to be in alignment. You can be, one thing can be off that can throw everything else off.
So true.
Over the years, I've even come to a place because I have a daughter who is a disabled Army vet, and she has been very sick. And so there had just been, we don't have family close by. The closest family we have is, oh, he left. Well, there he is. Is Howard, and he is in Atlanta. So for us, it has really been a journey, which has made me even kind of grasp on to them even more. But I've come to a place that on a really bad day for me, I won't go out because I don't want to pass my that negative energy on to other people. So either I try not to go out at all, or I go out really, really early in the morning when there's very few people for me to interact with. And that way I'm keeping me straight, and I'm also not passing that energy on to others. So.
That is, when I say this is a breath of fresh air.
Wow.
This is tuned with self.
Yeah, it is so wonderful. My fascination isn't so deep, because I don't really know about the names of the different rocks or the stones. I'm not really all educated, but I am somewhat there. And
awesome.
Peace and awareness and positive energy and healing.
Yes. And that's everything to a person who is positive. That often family, friends may walk away, which is already devastating to hear that you're positive, and then to have the people that's supposed to love you the most and care for you the most, to have those people to turn on you can be extremely devastating. And I remember Mary J. Blige did a song some years ago, and she was talking about how she went to the edge of the ledge. The situation had taken her to the edge of the ledge, but she didn't jump. And I could totally connect with that because I've been there, and I've been to the edge a little more often than I would like to admit to, but my gift is that I can admit that I have been to the edge. And that's also a way that I can help people. I know what it's like to want to die because of your situation. You don't have any control over it. So there's really nothing you can do about it other than follow somebody else's lead as far as what do I do next, where do I go next, those kind of things. So it's just really good that now there is more awareness. Unfortunately, there are still people who don't know or don't care. As much information is out there, and that kind of just boggles my mind that there is still so much lack of knowledge over something that can be prevented so easy. And even if you are infected, you can still get help, you can get treatment.
Live a normal life.
Oh yeah, but for some reason, people still have fears that they just don't want to know.
And I have a something to go with what you're saying, because a lot of times, when you do find out something devastating news like that, and then you turn to all the different medications that they have, which, it can heal, but it really hurts a lot of things too. Psychological problems come with all those different medications, paranoia. So it really is good to have that self-peace.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to be strong enough to still press forward. And so how do you, help in that manner when coming, I guess, into paths with someone who has gotten this type of news, about themselves having HIV, AIDS, and just feel like giving up?
Well, because I've been there. I know what it's like to get that news because I got it. I know what it's like, especially when you're not a person that, if you listen to all the ways when it first kind of reared its head, the ways that you could get it, or the lifestyle that you might be living, I wasn't a part of any of that. So for me to hear a diagnosis like you're positive, I'm just looking at this lady like, you got my name wrong. That was the first thing that came to me. It's like, I think you got the wrong person, because again, I've never been promiscuous. I didn't use drugs. I didn't sleep around. So I didn't do any of the things they said you needed to do or was part of a group that you needed to be a part of to put you at risk. Unfortunately, I married my disease, and at that time the individual knew that they were positive, but never bothered to disclose that piece of information. We also lived in a state where it was mandatory to be blood tested in order to get a marriage license, but guess what? Confidentiality is still confidentiality. And until this day, I will remember when we went back for our blood test, and I remember the doctor looking at me with almost in awe, and he was just like, you're such an amazing woman. And all the stuff he was saying, I was thinking that those were things, that my husband must have said to him. Right. And it had nothing to do with what he said. It was because the doctor knew that he was positive. He just thought I was looking past all of that. And still, I loved him in spite of that, when I literally had no clue. And it was not until we actually relocated to Florida, because my job had relocated me here. It was not until like a year and a half later he got really, really sick, and ended up he had developed cancer and needed to have a transplant. And I went to see if I might be a match for him. He needed a bone marrow transplant. And the whole process, because it was such an urgent thing, then they had to do blood tests and so forth. And that's actually how I found out. It was not from taking an HIV test or anything like it. And I didn't think about it till years later of what could have happened if I didn't have to go through that right there. Right. If I had not gone to see if I may be a match, for him.
You were trying to be there for him.
For him. I may not have known until it was entirely too late. So for me, it was devastating, because again, I was in a strange land. I just moved to Florida. I had just started my job here, so I did not know a lot of people. My oldest child was just starting college, and my son was just a little boy. So it was a lot to wrap my head around as a mom. First of all, and even when I got into doing public speaking and education, it was literally by accident. And a lady that used to run Centaur here, her guest speaker didn't show up, and I happened to be at a World AIDS Day event, and the guest speaker got stuck at an airport, and it was kind of last minute, and that year they were focusing on women of color. And so I'd had several people in the community to approach me, but I just was like, I wasn't ready for that, you know. So, but this lady who I dearly love, and she has been such a amazing supporter of me, I did it for her as a favor, and from there it just kind of took off. The more I did it, the more afterwards I would have both men and women would come up and thank me, you know, because they couldn't speak for themselves, or they had a sibling or loved one who lived in silence. So it was nice that somebody that looked like them could kind of tell the community what it was like. Right. So each time kind of gave me a little bit more, you know, but even before I did anything, I had to talk to my children and actually ask them basically their permission, because I would never had done any public speaking if it was not okay for both of them, because people knew them. I didn't care about me, but I cared about how people would treat my children. And it's just so funny that I'm thankful my children didn't get the backlash I did. But as I went through that and I learned, I was actually learning who people really were. So even till this day, I take you at what I see and what my gut gives me immediately, and that's what I walk away with.
Wow. I mean, it's such an amazing testament.
I mean, I'm
True
so
testament warrior.
So strong.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
so strong and empowering and courageous.
Yes.
To be able to inspire and empower other people through your story alone has made me realize a few different things. So I thank you so much for
absolutely. People
courage.
have to know that we're still human. We still belong. We're somebody's children. We're somebody's parents. You know, we're still individuals who want and need the same things that everybody else does. Again, I grew up an only child, so I didn't have siblings. But even for my mother, because of where we were, it took me many years to disclose to my mother. And my mom's birthday is Valentine's Day, and this year was the first time I just posted a picture. It was actually the last picture that I took with her, and it was the day that I had disclosed to her. I went all the way home to have this dinner and to tell her face to face. And it was just really strange that she looked at me afterwards, and I think I thought I was so stressed out over it when I disclosed to her. Afterwards, she said, "I already knew." Wow. And so, you know, that blew me away. It was like, what do you mean you already knew? She said, well, she didn't know for sure of what it was, but she knew something was terribly wrong because of the kind of person that I am. And I just basically kind of shut down.
Right.
You know, again, being from a small place and a very racial state, you have to be careful of what you say and do, or at least that's how I felt. Now I kind of have that I don't give a damn sort of attitude.
That's right.
I know, that's a great
Keep
way
it going.
That's a great way to close.
If you're not signing the check or the rent check, then it just doesn't matter.
You better preach. So in closing, once again, thank you for your amazing testimony. I just salute you, and I'm going to hug you after this, because I've been inspired and empowered just by your story. In closing, what would you like to say to our listeners and our viewers today out there who know that we're here, for this great cause and hearing your testimony?
I would like to first thank you guys for being here. It's another outlet. It's another way to get the message out there, to get tested. Yes. HIV and AIDS is something that you can't see. I really, really encourage, especially those who are single or dating or trying to date, regardless of what your age is. I always tell people there's one thing, this is a conversation that needs to be had ahead of time. And if you bring up the fact, you ask the person if they've been tested, if you've been tested, and if they say, yeah, when? They got some paperwork, because their paperwork comes with testing. You know what I mean? But it's so important that people, this is something you cannot take somebody at their word for. You need proof. that they've been tested and they're not positive. And if you can't get that, or if they give you attitude, to me, that's a sign that that's somebody I don't want to deal with, because we're talking about something life-changing, and HIV is not gone away. I'm not going to say that it won't. Maybe in my grandson generation, he's 2 now. You know, but I was hoping before my son became grown, and now my son is 31 years old, so and he's my baby at 31. So I just really encourage people to please get tested. Know your status. Talk to your children, but talk to your children like they're real people. Don't act like you didn't have a past.
Right.
You know, talk to them and share your past. It might be ugly, but all your kids are going to do is trip off of you that you actually did some of those strange things, you know?
Right.
But you have to, the conversation has to be had. There's no getting around that.
Well, we thank you again, Ms. Diana Williams with The Guardian Incorporated.
Yes.
If I have that right. So thank you so much for coming. We're going to take a short break. I'm your host, JoJo Knows.
And I am your co-host, Constance B.
And you're tuned into the Lemon Squeeze
Lemon
Show.
Squeeze Show.
Yes, and we are here at the Holden Heights Community Center.
With the Problem Solving Network.
Yes, and we'll be right back.
Alrighty.
What I'm talking about love. Talking about love and happy, yeah. Talking about love and happiness. Love and
Yeah.
That was a V.
You are. That was like my inner Prince coming out.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Purple Rain.
Oh, well, wrong song. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's JoJo Knows and
Constance B.
Beyonce.
We are the Lemon Squeeze
Show.
Yes.
And y'all already tuned in, but we'll tell you again. WPSN99.com.
Yeah. And we are back with Trinity here.
Yes. Well,
Hello,
we
hello.
didn't start with Trinity. So welcome, Trinity. Dharma Guy
Hey, what's going on?
actually has a show on the Problem Solving Network.
That's
Dude,
right.
You've been on it, by the way.
Yes, I have.
I have not been on it.
Well, we need to fix
Was
that.
that
I feel
shade?
left. It was shade.
Well,
A
We
lot
need
of
to fix
shade. Thunder coming with it.
You know what it was, though, is my show
that's
can
a
only
storm.
take...
That ain't shade.
My show can only take so much fabulousness at once. So if I had you both on, it
and
would...
she's
it's-
already like a whole. She's not a snack.
Well, so are you.
It's a whole meal.
Oh, God. Wow.
I can't deal with it. Trinity.
Exactly. I couldn't have you both on at the same time. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. That'd be fabulousness overload right there.
So Trinity, did you go get tested?
I did not know. I was waiting for you to go.
I didn't go.
I thought we were
either.
going to hold hands and walk over there together.
Did any of us go get tested?
No,
No, but I am gonna go. I'm gonna go over there.
I'm not going.
They're giving out $10 just to get tested.
That's so.
I need mine.
Your $10.
I need mine.
We need gas money.
gas
back
money
to
home,
Coco.
exactly.
That's right.
Gas money
And
back
all
to
these
Auburn.
kids, y'all seen the whole tribe. Woo! We all need to get it, and y'all just give me y'all 10.
I know that's right. Look, what's the youngest that can go?
I feel like I'm being hustled right now.
Hey, you, if they
Wait a minute.
test the kids, you almost have a $50.
Girl, no, I will have a 50.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so you guys sent Trinity away to go get some questions.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I've been
Let me
been
pull
tasked
them
with
up.
asking all the wonderful questions to everybody today. First and foremost, I want to say that the people out here who are doing the testing are two different places. One is called Miracle of Love, and the other one is Hope and Health. And they've been doing free testing. And so if anybody here
Yes.
locally wants to go get tested and wasn't able to make it out here today, they can go to Miracle of Love at 741 West Colonial Drive, and that's in Orlando, Florida. And you can check them out at miracleoflovelnc.org.
And we found out today that the test that they were doing out here it took 15 minutes to
Yeah,
get
that's
the
crazy.
results. But they have a test even quicker than that where it only takes 1 minute to actually know
That's
your
insane.
status.
That's
So
insane to me.
that's like incredible.
And the other one, real quick, is Hope and Health, and they offer a wide array of services, not just HIV testing, but you can reach them at hopeandhelp.org, and they're at 707 Mendham Boulevard, Suite 104, and that's also in Orlando, Florida. So those are the people doing the testing, and yes, I think it's amazing that you can have a lifetime kind of decision within 15 minutes.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Well, that's good because most restaurants you have to wait while you're waiting, and you guys said it was a good first date. I think Constance B said it was a good first date thing. So while you're waiting for your table to be ready, you can get a test.
That's right.
And then go. And then the buzzer's still.
If the results are good, we eat. If not,
right.
Absolutely.
I guess I'm lucky.
Well, we can still sit down and eat together.
I guess I'm glad I'm not in the dating world anymore because that's an awkward first date. I think it's a little presumptuous.
Okay, so we're at a date and. Tomorrow I need you to go and take care of this. Please. Slide a little note. Read it after.
But I think thank you for bringing that information, Trinity, because we were joking, but I was like, no, I'm not getting tested today. So there might be individuals who were here today or are listening to the show, and they're like, they didn't feel comfortable doing it out here in this setting, but you know where to go now.
Right.
That's me personally. I'm like, I don't want to go out there because if I heard bad news, they'd be calling like 10 ambulances out here for so I'd rather go down to the actual organization to have everyone you know what I mean so if you all are interested,
you want to be there with somebody who's going to support you.
Exactly. So
because I wouldn't be any good support. I'd be crying, falling out.
You gonna fall out with me, help.
I'm emotional.
I'm a little offended though. Like, wait, so I think what she was saying was we're not supportive.
No,
that's what
that's
I heard.
not what I'm saying.
Well, Louis is like gonna make a joke out of everything, so it's best not he come. I did say it right. Best not.
There you go.
It is a little close to the dope man's house for me to find out.
You see, that's why we can't take you serious, right there.
I'll give you some spiritual guidance. How about that?
Well, that's true. You got the laughter, then you had the spiritualness. So
there you go.
I think y'all would hold me down.
Yeah,
right
but
on.
I still think I'd do it in office.
Well, let's take that energy away from you anyway.
Yeah, I went around asking some wonderful questions to people.
When did you ask the question? When do you have unprotected sex with your partner? What did you hear?
And so I got the privilege of asking a bunch of people who look at me cross-eyed when I ask them this.
Yeah,
because here's some strange white tattooed guy going up and saying, "Hey, when do you have unprotected sex?" But no, the overwhelming consensus, it seems like the majority of them were answering once you're married. Basically, a lot of them said wait until marriage, which I do believe is some old school traditional values. Of course,
I would say
it was a wide array. I think some of the younger ones was just trying to be safe. Is what I think happened.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, one person did say a year, and another one said several months. Once you've had a foundation of trust and whatnot, is when that would probably take place.
That's pretty much what we agreed on inside of here too. What was our next one?
The next one I have on my list is: are women afraid to have their own condoms and why? So the older generation that I came across, they were all very adamant that no, they're not afraid to have it at all. They should have it. The younger ones said that they absolutely understood that there was a stigma, but they said that being safe and healthy was more important than being embarrassed. So they all believed that you should have it, but they understood that there was a stigma attached to it.
Which is really good because I think, just being a woman and, dating and hearing from other women, a huge stigma is if a woman has condoms, then she is considered to be promiscuous or,
That's a good
WHORE.
I think the word that was used for me was tacky, is what she said.
So, absolutely.
Wow, tacky.
But I think we're past that. If we're not, then we should be.
Of course. And what I liked most, to be honest with you, back when you guys were interviewing the commissioner, when she said essentially that if you're not comfortable enough or grown enough to have that discussion, then you probably shouldn't be active with one another.
That's
and I thought
true.
that was a really good kind of statement there. Only because there's a lot of consequences that come with that. Not only the supposed bad ones in STDs, the lifelong ones with pregnancy, but also the emotional things that take place when you take that, the relationship to that level. So if you're not able to talk about just basically getting tested, maybe you should rethink about what you're about to do.
Right. I think it goes back to, that saying, if he's not good enough to marry, he's not good enough to sleep with. And then if he's not good enough to marry, you can't have a conversation, then you're not ready for either.
Exactly.
Right.
So.
Right.
The next question I got was, how do you ask your partner to get tested? This one I thought was interesting. Both the older generation and the younger generation collectively all basically said there was no question. There was just, hey, we're going to go get tested. They said basically we're going to tell him that we're going to do that.
Yeah, let's
go. It wasn't really, don't give him an option. Just say we're going to go do this.
Right.
At 5
which was
o'clock
pretty
PM,
interesting.
We have an appointment. Let's go. I like it.
Yeah, and they said essentially it was having an open and honest and respectful relationship.
Okay.
Next question
That's what Dana and I did. We first started dating.
Right on.
We both had that conversation, and we said, let's get tested before we go any further.
Right. Next question that I had was, why is there such a fear of getting tested? And hands down, it all kind of, they gave different variations of it, but hands down, it was they'd rather stay ignorant. They're just afraid of the truth. I think overwhelmingly, I think they're all just afraid to get the yes, really. Because it's not really the truth, actually. They're not afraid of getting the no. They're afraid of getting the yes.
True. I have to tell you, there was a time in my life when I was extremely fearful of taking the test. And the first time I took the test was when I was applying for life insurance.
Right.
And so they required you to have this testing. And so that was my way of, okay, I'm going to get life insurance and then also find out, whether or
Very
not
cool.
where I stand. Yeah. And so that's
That's
how
awesome.
I did it, to face my
That's a
fear.
good
Because
way.
there, I would go for my annual, and you could go to your gynecologist, and she's encouraging you to take this test, and you're like, give me the paperwork, because they give you the paperwork to go down, where at least at my center, and then I would never go to Quest to turn it in to have the test. But that was my way of psyching my mind out to actually get it done. And I remember my life insurance policy coming in the mail, and they had the results attached, and it didn't dawn on me that, when it said approved, that I was good, and then behind it, in another envelope, there was the test, and they actually sent it in the mail, and it had HIV and checked negative, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was such a huge release.
Right.
So I can definitely relate to the fear of taking that test.
Yeah, and then
Oh my gosh.
well, not one time, but once I had my test done at the clinic in Vieira, and you usually didn't get a phone call. Like if everything was fine, you didn't get a phone call. Like you didn't get anything. Well, now they call you, and they call you to come back in. I didn't know that. They didn't give me the MO. Yeah. So I got the phone call, and they said, hi, Miss Burrell. This is the Vieira Clinic. Could you come in? Your results are in. I'm like,
You were freaking out.
I'm like, well, just tell me over the phone. And they're like, well, we can't do that because we have to verify this is who you are. You're you. And I'm like, what? Like, my whole world was coming down in that moment because all I could think about was my father. I'm thinking like, oh, now my worst nightmare.
Yes.
Wow.
And I get there.
Was that the longest drive ever?
It was the longest drive. My
only
armpits were
imagine.
sweating. I was like
Your
perspiring
knees
all
were shaking
over.
Oh, my
walking
God.
in.
And I get inside. They call me to the back, and I'm just like, just lay it on me, doc. Just lay it on me. And so she's like, oh no, everything came back negative. And I'm like,
Why did you call me for that?
why? Like, why did you do that? I thought you guys,
Right.
you didn't have to, she's like, no, well now, because it was so much, whatever, we now have to inform, and we have the people to come in. I'm like, this could have been avoided.
Right.
Now I'm mad, but I was happy. But so that's a good thing that they now actually call you in so you can see your results. So
And it's good for people to know that, so that when you get the call, it doesn't mean
some people
it's
won't
positive.
go.
Like because there are some people who might get that call, and especially with mental health issues, and could commit suicide thinking
Oh,
that
my
was
God,
the call. So it's good for us to put that out there. Like just because you get the call does not mean
Just
that
go
you
and
have
see.
HIV.
Right.
Well, I'm going to use that as a segue into our next question then.
Okay.
Because the very next question you guys gave me was, do you get tested individually or together as a couple? And the kind of the vibe of what I was getting was if you're not going to pursue a long-term relationship with that individual, then you go by yourself.
Right.
If you're going to try to pursue a long-term relationship with them, then it's best to kind of communicate and go together. So I guess it's essentially, how do you view that person that you're intimate with? Do you view this as just like a short-term thing, or are you actively trying to pursue something long-term? That seems to be the deciding factor, I guess, if you're individual or separate or together. And then the next question I had here was...
I could see that too. Could you imagine like going with someone who you're just casually dating, and then you find out some bad news, and then they go tell your business.
They leave you, and then now
on social
they,
media.
right.
They put
Exactly.
social media. Like, don't touch her. She got the it. So it's very important to be with somebody you can trust.
Yeah.
You say that, but I actually saw a post like that from somebody that blasted a one-night stand they had. This girl posted that she had blankety blank, and then she said, And this is the guy I got it from, and she showed the text messages between her and the guy.
Oh,
And she
goodness.
says, I mean, this guy, I'm sure he knew. He made me not use a condom. I'm sure he didn't use a condom. I told him to use a condom, but I can't find it anywhere. It's not in my garbage can. I mean, she just
That's brutal.
like 5-6 posts in a row, and like of course, getting a whole support network of people backing up her saying, and then she's showing the text messages back and forth. The guy saying, "Why are you doing me like this?" He says, I actually asked you. And he goes, and I did wear a condom. I kept it with me, and I threw it away. I wasn't going to leave it in your garbage can. And she was still blasting him.
Wow.
But she outed him completely.
Oh, that was just a lot of anger.
Yeah.
A lot of anger and hate.
Well, then that kind of leads me to the next one, actually, is if you find out that your partner has HIV or AIDS, do you leave or do you stay? And to me, I thought this was kind of a doozy question, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why I think it's a big question is kind of the answer that they gave, and that was it all kind of depends on how long you've been together, is what the consensus was basically if you've been together for a very long period of time and you find that out, then you try to work things out. However, kind of under their breath, they all kind of had the same feel, the same vibe, was they would leave. I think because one person actually changed their answer. They said that they would, it depends on how long they were together, they would work it out. But then she thought about it for a second. She's like, but realistically, I think I'd leave because I want to be with someone who doesn't have that. And they're thinking kind of future thoughts and things of that nature. I think that's a very difficult question, to be honest with you. Good question for you guys.
What's your answer?
Well, my dad and his wife, and she, actually got into this knowing what he have, and she's been with him since I was a little girl.
Right. Could you see yourself doing that?
No, I wouldn't. I would still be good friends with the person.
Right.
I'm not going to stop loving a person.
Sure, of course.
But
not.
at the same time, I have to protect myself. And so if I can't, be with you the way that I want to and be free with you and comfortable, then that's my choice,
That's
but
what the doctor said. The doctor said that they can become undetectable, and
well, that's fine. I can still be friends with a person that I just
Well, I don't
mean I
think
can't be friends with them, but
I don't view it as a judgmental thing personally. I view it as it's a survival thing. We all have our own little set of guidelines that we approach life by, and
I think it's fine.
Yeah. And then the last two I have here.
No.
Oh, here we go. I think JoJo was going to weasel out of that one.
Yeah.
Huh? So?
Why you did that?
Because this isn't Dharma time, and he was moving way too fast on that.
Next question.
No.
The next question is
people
JoJo
want to know what
knows.
JoJo knows.
Would
We
you
want to know what you think, girl.
what would you do, girl?
I saw Louis look at me too, and I was like, "Don't you say nothing."
I feel like if we're in a relationship and I found out, if I found out he had it, or we had it.
Now comes all the specifics and stuff.
But
man.
I'm the overthinker, so
What we
he
talking
had
about
it
here?
or we had it.
Put it like he had.
Hey, it
Because
seems
if it's
like
a we
we're
thing, then,
switching positions.
No, if I
Are you on the fence?
Exactly. That she sounds a
Could you
little
see
like
Here we go.
Constance.
I'll make it specific.
We switched roles.
Can you see a scenario where you would be in a relationship, in a romantic relationship with somebody with HIV? Can you
Dun,
see a
dun,
situation
dun.
where that would occur?
Dun, dun,
Let's
dun,
be honest.
dun.
Be honest.
No, now with the man that I'm with, I would stay with him. I pray he doesn't have
I need
it.
him in the
You know?
studio all the time.
But
Well, luckily there's a bus outside.
Yeah, you can go find out right now.
out today, right?
And get
Right.
$10.
So, which to me
Actually
is
20.
the real answer, because now that I have found my soulmate, like it's different. If I was dating, or when I think about my past dating, like would I have stayed? Heck no. H to the no. But now
To the no.
yeah, now, in a relationship where I want to be with someone the rest of my life, and if this was something that came with him, and let's say we didn't, I didn't take the precautions to find out beforehand and, find out later, I'm not going to leave him because of this. Now I'm going to do the whole research and, African medicine, and I'm trying to call Magic Johnson and say, what's up? Can you help my man out? I'm going to do the whole nine for him to get better, get clean, try to find a cure. But no, where I'm at now in my life, I would not leave him. But I pray to God, knock on wood and everything that we never have to face that. But if so, I'm not leaving. We might as well stay. And plus, I might not have it too now, so we might just gonna have it together and live on forever.
Well, that's a good response. That's really good. And that's real warm
truth.
and heartfelt. I like this side of you. We're going to have him in the building more often.
I think
Hold on. That is insinuating.
You should see the big old grin he's got on his face right now,
not
too.
Not keeping it real.
No, you
I keep it real all the time.
No.
I would tell him, oh, no, I'm a bounce. Like, I would tell him, but that is truly how I feel. Like, seriously, you guys, that is truly how I feel from the bottom of my heart. I would not, like, sugarcoat it because he's in this room. I mean, he gets the real me all day. Like,
I believe
when
that.
I snatched that wig off and I had these braids to the back. So I would definitely not, like, chase anything.
You didn't let Louie and I see that.
Yeah.
You didn't.
That's different.
No, I said you didn't let us see it. You went in the room and put the other one on.
Oh, yeah, I switched it up, yeah.
So he got a lot.
Yeah, he gets more than we
Yeah,
get.
he gets more than we get.
Well, he get
Feel
it
a little
all.
slighted. Well,
But that's
you
for
know.
another show.
But you know what? I think it's different is because you both have children. So I think that because you're not thinking of more children, I think it's a different answer as well, Trinity.
Sure.
When you're asking people,
No, I want to
think-
have twins now.
Well, then that's
Ooh.
well. That,
No, you don't.
I'm bringing them to y'all house.
okay, I want
Not mine. I already have a lot.
but I think it matters because if you still want to have children, I think the answer to a lot of people is going to be no. But I think if you're already past the child rearing years or childbearing years, I think more people would stay with the person if it's if they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s. But you're asking two young ladies in their 20s and stuff.
Well, I mean, some of the people out there were
I know that's
not in their 20s.
Right?
In their 20s.
That's what I was like.
Hey.
Well, I think
You both reacted to that. You shouldn't have.
I was like,
I think there's an X factor here, though, that people aren't thinking of, and the X factor with that being is of course, I'm gonna get spiritual here for a second, but
Do you?
that's right.
there you go. But being with somebody, assuming we're thinking about the health aspect of the overwhelming pressure of having the virus, but assuming you stay with somebody, you're staying with them knowing that at some point you're gonna have to watch that person suffer and potentially die.
And I think that's where
That's
you're.
a big thing to go into.
That's where because I had to go through that so early, and I see and seen and still do see, is not an experience that I want to carry on because it's emotional, and a lot of times people think like you get certain diseases and certain heart attacks and blood clots and things from other things, and that comes from stress.
Right.
And so considering that, I mean, if that's what you consider and that's what you're taking on, that's good, but just knowing that it just comes with a lot. I'm drained just
that's a huge
talking about
commitment
it.
for somebody.
I'm drained.
I think that has a lot to do with it too, because your experiences as well.
Yes.
Like firsthand, growing up, being a child, and being a caregiver for your father. Like what you've already experienced so much.
Yes.
Versus someone who hasn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right
If you
on.
can bear it, then you bear it. That's all I got to say.
I just think like I'd rather experience love than to not experience it at all. And so like I would rather stay with my loved one. It's like finding out, to me, I mean it's different, but finding out your loved one has cancer and it's going to be the same type of pain. It's going to be hard. Like I've still watching my grandfather leave me. And so it's a huge ordeal. It's very, emotional. It's draining. It's just awful. Yeah. But I'd rather be by that person's side until the day they take their last breath, because to me that's what love is. And so I didn't love you if I walked out on you when things got rough or when things went left. Now, do I wish that it doesn't happen to myself or anyone for that nature? Yes. But I ain't leaving you, baby, because if I leave you, that means I never loved you, to me.
Yeah, and that's how I think my stepdad's wife feel. I mean, she's been with him, not my stepdad, my biological father, and she's been with him through a lot. So I think for people who, like I said, if you can bear it,
You got a half a heart.
no, I don't.
I'm just playing.
I just don't want the stress, but I'm gonna still be there. My heart is big. I'll still be there for the person and still love them. But
you
as far as in the house,
Stay a friend.
you know what? Let's move on. Cannot.
Yeah, I think that's. And as far as the questions are concerned, the last two were just, can you get AIDS from earwax? And nobody really knew that.
Oh, the doctor answered that question.
yeah.
He said, I don't know.
And then the last
Yeah.
one was, can you get AIDS from oral? And all but one said yes.
Wow.
There was one individual
And which
said
is
no.
right, because that's what the doctor did tell us. He said that because of the fluid.
It's not. It has nothing to do with blood. It's the fluid.
The fluid. So and that's what you said about the earwax as well.
Or the cuts. You said the cuts in the mouth.
Right.
Yes. So you know what, you guys, today was a phenomenal day for myself. I know for Constance B, she spoke. Oh my goodness, we did have recordings, so we will definitely post those for everyone to hear. It's National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, and we spent the day at Holden Heights Community Center. We spoke with a lot of phenomenal individuals.
Yes, we
to the
did.
point where we had more than one show. And so, tune in. If you didn't hear the last show, please listen. Educate yourselves, educate your friends, your family, get tested, become aware. Like, there is this epidemic that you cannot live if you find out, but truly you sign your death certificate if you don't get tested, so that you can get the treatment that you need, so that you can still conquer and accomplish of your dreams. So, I'm your host, JoJo Knows.
And I am your co-host, Constance B.
And remember, this is the Lemon Squeeze Show.
And you are tuned into
WPSN99.com.
The Problem Solving Network. You did it, girl.
I know.
Full day.
Fist pump. Boom, boom.
Anyone else with a comment?
That's all there is. There isn't anymore.